Question number 12, Kevin Hague.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order. Point of order, Kevin Hague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I seek your ruling about the legitimacy of the transfer of this question from the Minister of Health in light of Speaker's ruling 168.1, and in particular 168.1 sub 2, your own ruling, sir. Ministers should be in a position to answer supplementary questions. Mr. Speaker, this is a question that is primarily around the health consequences of climate change. Now, the fact that the words climate change were used in the question does not change the substantive nature of the question. And competent as a minister, as I'm sure Mr. Grosser is, he is not an expert in health services. He is not in a position to answer supplementary questions about those issues. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I find myself in the position of, if the question is permitted to be transferred, not able to effectively answer some of the supplementary questions that I would like to, because the Minister responding will not have the expertise to be able to do so.
Order. Order. I'll hear from the Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Well, Mr. Speaker, firstly, it's a very bold person which suggests that the Honourable Tim Grosser doesn't have expertise in a large range of topics. But quite apart from
that, if the member could just raise his real point of order, I'd be very grateful.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it is up to the government to choose who it believes can best answer on behalf of the government. In this case, the question is very much focused on climate change. Quite clearly, the suggestions by the Professor, which we would have looked at in making that determination, are best answered by the way in which climate change policy might be affected in the months to come.
Yeah. Can I take the... No, I don't need any further assistance. Can I also take the opportunity of inviting the member who raises the point of order to look at Speaker's ruling 1682, and that clearly says it's the prerogative of the government to determine who will answer. The point the member makes in quoting a Speaker's ruling of mine is I would certainly not find it acceptable if, when the questions were asked, the supplementary questions were asked, for a minister then to say, well, you'd have to ask the minister to whom you originally tried to put the question to, and that's why that particular Speaker's ruling was there. So we'll proceed with the question, and as Mr. Brownlee says, we will wait with interest on the answers given by the Minister for Climate Change. Question number 12, Kevin Hague.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Climate Change Issues and asks, does he agree with Lancet Commission co-chair Professor Hugh Montgomery that climate change is a medical emergency, but tackling climate change could be the greatest global health opportunity of the 21st century?
The Honourable Tim Grosser.
Mr. Speaker, in the light of the discussion we've just had, let me put it this way. If one were a climate change denier, then in the last few days it's been a very bad run for anyone who is a doctor, a patient or a Catholic.
Order, sir.
Order. Order. Point of order, Materia Ture.
Frankly, if that was not proof of this minister's inability to answer these questions, I don't know what is.
Order.
And it was certainly no answer.
Member will resume his seat. Immediately sit down. It's not the answer that I would have hoped for. The way forward is I will now allow the member 2 additional supplementary questions. Supplementary question, Kevin Hague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is the New Zealand Medical Journal wrong when it says that in New Zealand, leading health threats from climate change include high temperatures, extreme events, changing patterns of infectious diseases, and water and food shortages or price changes?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Tim Grosser.
No, I do not believe that analysis is wrong. I think it's entirely consistent with the science, and it's also entirely consistent with the underlying objective of the 1992 Convention, which calls for governments to act to stabilise anthropogenic emissions at a level suitable for human habitation.
Supplementary question, Kevin Hague.
Is Dr. Rhys-Jones, public health physician and senior lecturer, University of Auckland, wrong when he said that tackling climate change is likely to be the greatest global health opportunity of the 21st century? That means that urgent action to move to a low and very soon zero carbon society is not just necessary to avoid the worst effects of climate change, but if done correctly, it will be enormously beneficial for our health and well-being right now.
The Honourable Tim Grosser.
Well, I will leave it to medical experts to debate this. What I noticed that the Lancet said it could be, whether in fact it will be greater than, say, the risk of superbugs to the efficacy of antibiotics, greater than the perennial rise of cancer in advanced societies or other such major challenges facing the medical community is an interesting question. But yes, it could be the greatest challenge.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Kevin Hague.
Why then did the government's consultation document on setting New Zealand's post-2020 climate change target completely fail to consider the health costs of climate change and the health benefits from well-designed climate action?
The Honourable Tim Grosser.
Mr. Speaker, the question fundamentally relates to the risks of climate change. That relates to the science. The consultation was not trying to reopen the science, which we think is extremely clear.
Supplementary question, Kevin Hague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What steps has he taken to protect New Zealanders' health in the face of climate change?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Tim Grosser.
Mr. Speaker, I and the team of New Zealand experts that work with me have done a great deal to try and contribute towards global solutions on climate change, which is the root of the problem. We have done this in a variety of ways, which I've addressed this House only recently.
Supplementary question, Kevin Hague.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. If I were to ask another oral question about health services in relation to climate change tomorrow, will he guarantee that the government will not transfer that question?
Order. No, that's no ministerial responsibility for that whatsoever. That concludes questions for oral answer. Would some honourable member care to move that the House take note of miscellaneous business?
Mr. Speaker, I would.
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.